Looks like we're finally getting the return of one of the darkest, most atmospheric classics of the 2000s, Constantine. Nearly 20 years after the original, the sequel has officially come back to life. A new version of the script is done, and now everything depends on James Gunn. Keanu Reeves himself confirmed it, saying the project is finally moving forward. After years of rumors and dead ends, Constantine 2 is now one step closer to reality. According to Keanu, he recently received the latest draft, and this one actually impressed him. So much so that the script has already been sent to Warner Brothers for Gunn's approval. And since he now oversees every DC project, his word is final. It's still technically a draft, but the fact that it even exists is a huge step forward. Development on this sequel has been painfully slow, and now we finally know why. Peter Stormare, who played Lucifer in the first film, shed some light on it. He said Keanu wasn't happy with the original version of the script. It was stuffed with Hollywood cliches, too many action scenes, stunts, and shootouts like something out of another franchise. Basically, it turned Constantine into a generic blockbuster, losing all that eerie philosophical tone fans loved in the original. Stormare said Keanu told the studio he'd already done John Wick, and that Constantine should be something completely different. And honestly, he's right. The first movie, while packed with visual flair, was ultimately about faith, sin, redemption, and the battle between light and darkness inside the human soul. Keanu wanted to preserve that, the dark, thoughtful, mystical side of the story, not turn it into another wholly action hero flick. There are also rumors that Reeves is pushing for a bold new take on how God is portrayed in the sequel. Supposedly, he suggested that God should wear a black suit and have the same mysterious, philosophical vibe as Lucifer. Not a radiant, angelic figure, but something more ambiguous and complex. Stormare is the source for most of these details, but they sound very believable. First, because it fits perfectly with Keanu's creative instincts and his understanding of the character. Reeves has been fighting to get this sequel made for years, and now that it's finally moving forward, no one wants to get it right more than he does. If Gunn approves the script, we might just get a real return. Not just flashy and loud, but meaningful, atmospheric, and unmistakably Keanu. Back in 2005, Constantine wasn't exactly a box office hit, especially by superhero movie standards, but time did its thing, and the film slowly turned into a cult classic. That moody noir vibe, the demonic aesthetic, the distinct visual style, and of course Keanu Reeves' haunting performance, all of it made Constantine one of the most unforgettable supernatural movies of the 2000s. And now, nearly 2 decades later, the long-awaited sequel is closer to reality than ever. At this point, everything depends on DC's leadership, meaning James Gunn. From what we know, Constantine 2 won't be tied to the main DC timeline. Instead, it'll belong to the separate Elseworlds label, which focuses on darker, standalone stories. And honestly, that makes perfect sense. A film with gothic visuals, religious symbolism, and that signature somber tone doesn't really fit with DC's upcoming superhero lineup, which leans more toward classic action-driven storytelling. Still, there's a real chance this project could surprise even Gunn. If the new script truly delivers, the studio might push Constantine 2 higher up on their release schedule, just like they've done with a few other unexpected hits. Interestingly, before Superman even started filming, Gunn talked about the future of the Elseworlds label during a press tour. He mentioned having a meeting with a major star who was working on a separate DC film and said they were discussing what it would take to get that project greenlit. Fans quickly figured out that he was talking about Keanu Reeves and Constantine. Apparently, Reeves took Gunn's advice seriously because the script went through major rewrites and is now much closer to what the studio wants. That significantly boosts the sequel's chances of getting the official go-ahead. Gunn's team has already proven they can spot potential in unconventional ideas. Just look at Clayface, a Batman villain movie that unexpectedly got the green light thanks to a strong script and now even has a release date. Constantine 2 could very well follow the same path. With its loyal fanbase, a legendary lead actor, and a director who understands the world perfectly, the sequel has everything it needs to make a real comeback. If the script gets approved, production could start surprisingly soon. If things go smoothly, the studio might give the official green light by the end of this year. That would set filming for 2026 and a potential release in 2027. Director Francis Lawrence, who helmed the original Constantine, seems perfectly positioned for that timeline. He's in the middle of a creative resurgence right now. Next year he's releasing the Hunger Games prequel, and after that, he's got several big projects lined up. I Am Legend 2, the BioShock adaptation, and of course Constantine 2. But looking at how things stand, Constantine seems like the most realistic and ready to go of them all. BioShock recently got sent back for script rewrites, setting it back to an early development stage, while I Am Legend 2, despite having huge names like Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan, is stuck in limbo because of story issues. Compared to those, Constantine 2 looks like Lawrence's strongest and most achievable project right now. If DC gives the thumbs up, filming could genuinely kick off as soon as next year. As for the story, there aren't many official details yet, but from bits and pieces shared by the cast and creators, we can start piecing together where the sequel might go. If you think back to how the first film ended, it all lines up pretty naturally. At the end, Lucifer cures John Constantine of cancer, not out of kindness, but to stop him from entering heaven. He does it hoping that John will eventually slip up again and end up back in hell. So in the sequel, Constantine will probably have to follow strict spiritual rules, making sure he doesn't give Lucifer any excuse to drag him down again. At the same time, to prove he's worthy of redemption, John will likely continue hunting demons, but in a more subtle, underground way. He might operate from the shadows, walking the fine line between good and evil, which fits his complex morality perfectly. Interestingly, according to Peter Stormare, the first draft of the script already featured God as a character. Even though the script has since been rewritten, it's hard to imagine that element being removed. In fact, God's presence might become central to the sequel's moral conflict. Judging by the actors' comments, this is the movie where God will finally make his appearance and have something to say about everything that's been going on. We don't know how major that role will be, but one thing's clear. It needs to be powerful and memorable. It wouldn't be surprising if the studio went for a veteran actor with real gravitas and depth. Someone like Gary Oldman would honestly be perfect for that kind of part. And yes, Stormare himself is coming back. A few months ago, reports surfaced that Keanu met with him to discuss their plans for the sequel, which is great news because it's hard to imagine Constantine without his version of Lucifer. The last time they shared the screen was in John Wick 2, where Stormare played the Russian mob boss Abram Tarasov, but it was Constantine that gave them one of the most iconic on-screen rivalries of the 2000s. Stormare's performance was chillingly calm, magnetic, and completely unpredictable. His Lucifer remains one of the best portrayals of the devil ever put on film. That final scene between him and Reeves still gives people goosebumps. Seeing them reunite would easily be one of the most exciting actor comebacks in recent years. The main villain of the new Constantine should feel just like that. Someone who commands fear simply by being in the room. The kind of presence that can turn reality itself into a nightmare. That's what made the original so special. It wasn't just stylish supernatural horror. It was one of the few superhero films of the 2000s that blended spiritual drama with dark gothic noir. What's cool is that the first Constantine actually made history as one of the earliest comic book movies to feature a post-credits scene. In it, we saw John's fallen partner Chaz, played by Shia LaBeouf, return from the dead as an angel. It was a clear setup for a sequel. There's also the lingering question of another key character, Gabriel. Tilda Swinton's androgynous take on the Archangel is still considered one of the most original portrayals ever put on screen. She recently said that no one has officially contacted her about returning yet, which is a little odd considering Keanu and Peter Stormare have already discussed their comeback. Still, nothing's set in stone. Official casting news is yet to come, and there's definitely hope we'll see Swinton again. All things considered, the project looks more alive and more promising than it has in years. Constantine 2 is one of those rare movies that fans have practically willed into existence. After decades of rumors, cancellations, and restarts, it's finally building momentum again, with just a few final decisions left for DC Studios to make. If everything goes well, we could get the first official production updates by the end of the year, which means seeing Keanu Reeves back in the Exorcist's coat is no longer just a dream, it's actually possible. Fans have been waiting for this sequel since 2005. Even back then, it was clear that Constantine had far more depth than your typical supernatural action flick. It scared, it fascinated, and it made you think about faith, morality, and redemption. Most importantly, it wasn't just another flashy superhero movie. That's why so many people still care about it after all these years. And now, if Keanu Reeves, Francis Lawrence, and James Gunn manage to bring back that same dark, thoughtful energy that made the original so special, Constantine 2 won't just be a sequel. It'll be a full-blown revival of a cult legend.